Today, super excited that you guys are here. We're with Bryan Eisenberg. I've known him for 18 years. We go way back. He is one of the original OGs in online marketing. I've read one of your books, I'm going to say A/B testing
That book came out?
13 years ago on a plane to Singapore on my way to speak at SMX. And I thought the Eisenberg brothers are incredible. And they have made the most complex things easy. And when I think about this latest book, The Rice and Beans Millionaire, it is geared towards young adults, actually anybody who's an entrepreneur, because they can't seem to follow the fundamentals because the pros are always focusing on the fundamentals. And I really wanted everyone to get a chance to hear directly from Bryan. And it's just a huge honor being able to hang out and see his child Sammy grow up and be like a 6'5", 260-pound monster. I've seen Bryan give Sammy every advantage with coaching, with tools, introducing him to the best people in the world of baseball and strength training and in sports. And it's just been awesome. And Bryan is the kind of person who maximizes life. And I have deep respect for him. Obviously, he's a world-class internet marketer, but just as a person. So I wanted you guys to be able to hear from Bryan from the horse's mouth on the Rice and Beans Millionaire, what some of the key concepts are. It's a book that you could easily read on a flight from LA to Seattle. Short book made for young adults in a very compelling storytelling dialogue format. The audiobook is coming out soon. It's ranked #1 in new releases on Amazon for entrepreneurship and a few other categories as well. So super awesome to have you here. Tell everyone, what's the inspiration behind the Rice and Beans?
You'll appreciate this one. I can even go to the exact spot. It's April this year, and I'm sending off an email to a client, and Sammy's home from school and asked me, "Hey, can we go out and play catch?" And I'm like, "Sure." So let me just finish this up and finish out the email. And we go to the cul-de-sac, exactly where you guys play basketball. And I catch that first pitch and I realize how lucky I was, how fortunate I am as an entrepreneur to have the freedom to spend the time with him in the middle of the day, in the middle of any random day. And of course, I've been there for so many of his games. I've missed so few of his games over the years and taken him to practices and trainings and all that. And it was at that point that I realized that is one among so many key lessons I want to leave as a legacy back for my kids, because they didn't see me back in the day when we were growing the agency and scaling out into some of the inner workings with a lot of our clients. They saw me at the age where they saw me mostly when I was doing more of my speaking than the building of businesses per se. And so I was like, how do I get these concepts through? And then I started asking around one particular question. And I would ask very successful entrepreneurs, I've asked friends like you as well. I said, if you can name one book that would give a young aspiring entrepreneur from 13 to 83, all the first principles, all the key things they needed to understand from a mindset and skill point of view to be a successful entrepreneur, what book would that be? And everybody struggled to name one. Then I went to Google and I started saying, okay, books for entrepreneurs. And you saw the EMAP and you saw the lean startup. There wasn't something that gave you that foundation. And after spending the last number of years working with Sammy, being around professional athletes, and I know you've told me this story too. You got into the Golden State Warriors early, watched Steph Curry warm up. It's fundamentals. It's just doing the same thing over and over for hours and grinding. Gave this example today as well on social media. It's like out in Vegas, you go to a Gordon Ramsay restaurant and there's certain expectations of things. And then you go and you watch him do a kitchen nightmare. And what does he rip everybody on? It's not the fancy stuff. It's, man, you haven't cleaned every day. Bathrooms aren't looking good. Your food isn't fresh. You have stuff on the menu nobody's ordering. Like, this is basic stuff. That's the problem. We don't talk about it as an industry because it's not sexy, but yet how many businesses fail within the first 5 years? Something like almost 50, 60% businesses fail within the first 5 years. If we're not talking about the simple things, I think because you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And I think that's the problem that we're seeing in entrepreneurism. We need to give people the right expectations and the challenges.
So who should be getting this book gifted to them?
Absolutely anybody who's graduating or is in high school. One of my favorite things about giving this book away and sharing it with friends is how many of my very successful. People have exited 20, 30, 40, $100 million businesses. And the first thing they tell me when they get back to that, is how much they love the book. They compare it to a Pat Lencioni book. They say, I'm going to give it to my kid to read next. And I'm like, okay, in other words, you've been successful, but this is going to be easier to explain it for your kids than if you try to. And that's what's so awesome about it to me.
You know, what's crazy is I look at you and Jeffrey and your career, and you had clients like Google, right? You're helping Google acquire more customers, and you're speaking in front of what might be an intimidating group, which is a bunch of really smart people. And yet you're helping them break it down into simple things like, what do small businesses want? And what's their main challenge? And why do they struggle? And you put it in these simplest terms. I look at the way that you do storytelling, and you do this reverse journey that, you know, figuring out things in reverse. Your first books were complex, but then your follow-up books were simpler and simpler.
Yeah,
What's behind that?
we actually talked about this book. One of our mentors called it 9 books in one. There's just so many ideas try to pack in there. And in this book, we really meant to appeal down to my 13-year-old. I think that was important. And he turned around, and once we finally had books in hand, he felt it. He part of the whole creation process. He'd read it every day as I wrote it. In the past 2 weeks, he started his own little business. He created his own business card. He created a webpage. And he's doing all these things, and he's already made almost $500 as a 13-year-old because he started applying some of the principles. He needed to know, these are the complex things. How can I tell it in a story? Because we all know that facts tell, but stories sell. Everything we're doing, we need to sell people and their brains on what they need to do. We also need to keep them entertained because there's so many entertainment options today at their fingertips that if we don't find a way to make it engaging, it creates a real challenge to get into the market. And I think a book like this today, people buy some of them. I don't think you get a lot of readers. How many are spending an hour a day reading? Right? My chapters, and I'll be blunt. You could go to the bathroom, knock out the corner of the book in that quick of a read. Each chapter is 2-3 minutes of a read. That's it.
Do you think that these 400-page, 500-page books are dead now? At least with the younger generation?
My friend Tracy is going to be so upset about this, but she sent me a text message that they started working on her book. She's got a great book coming up. I've read part of it. I contribute a little bit to it as well. And it's a mobility book. And she texted me, she says, I'm up to 420 pages and I'm not done yet. I'm like, like that, you're going to have to cut that in half. Don't get rid of all the material because there's a lot of great material, but we're going to have to figure out how to chop that in half because the problem with books, and I think that this is what a lot of authors don't understand. This is our 8th book, including my book. You're not selling a book. You're not actually selling the physical paper. What you're selling people on is the time they have to invest in reading a book. And so maybe if it's something like they're so passionate about, and it's such a niche book, they'll invest in something that's 400 pages. But if you want to reach a mass audience, you better make it quick, simple, and fun to read.
If you were to summarize the book in 1 minute, how would you do that?
I'll tell you a quote from early on in the book. Never be caught in another man's game. Always have a side hustle of your own or side game of your own.
What's wrong with working for someone else?
This is something one of my early mentors told me as well. When you have a job, and job is J-O-B, it stands for just over broke. And we're seeing it more and more in our environment today, is that it's just enough to keep you living paycheck to paycheck, but you can never get ahead on your job. And unfortunately, too many bosses today want you to invest your whole life into the business. And I'm sorry for those founders who want those super dedicated guys. But the reality is you get more out of people. And Dennis, I know you know this, if you can help them learn how to balance life and health and family and work and not suck them dry. And so you need to be in control of your own life. You need to be in control of your own destiny. You need to have the freedom to make choices as you want them to make. And having the skills on how to make money is probably the most critical thing for me. When I look at my youngest now, this kid went door to door asking people for money. He'll be fine the rest of his life. He will find a way to pay the bills no matter what, because he needs to find a way to make money. And it's a way of looking at the world. And I think parents need to help their children have this, no matter where they are, whether they think they're following their career, going to Harvard and becoming doctors, lawyers, but how many of them suck as business people?
Majority. They're too smart for their own good.
My friend, Dr. Matt, one of the top chiropractors here in Austin, 3 years in a row rated top chiropractic office in Austin. First thing he did is he bought 10 books and he can give them out to student friends because he wants them to understand. Yes, do what you love. But if you run it like a business and you understand how, you could do so much more.
For $7.95 in paperback, I've seen coffees cost more than that. Now it's
I'm going to
113
be
pages.
honest, the price will go up after the new year. We purposely kept the prices very inexpensive before the new year so we can let friends and family grab their copies, read them, leave their reviews up there. We were forced to let it out this time of year, which we weren't originally planning, but it'll go up. It'll go up a little bit in the new year. So definitely grab it now when you can. Save a couple bucks, because why not?
I'll make a special offer. The first 10 people that make a post about this book, about something that you learned from Bryan, about the Rice and Beans Millionaire, I will buy you your book. If you live in the United States, I can Amazon Prime it to you. I will cover that. So make a post, put it on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, tag Bryan and myself with something that you learned from Bryan, and I will ship you that book.
I'm going to add one to that one. Anybody who's listening now live and wants to share about it on social media and tags us, I'll mail out 3 copies of signed books. We only have a handful of them right now. 3 copies of signed books to anybody who goes out and says they learned something interesting from us today. So there you go.
Amazing. Yep. And what an honor to spend time with Bryan. For those of you that don't know, Bryan is a legend. I think he's probably one of the top 5 people in the world of internet marketing. Him and his brother, they are the nicest of people. We spent a lot of quality time together, conferences all over the world. He lives in Austin. This book is something that has been missing in the world of entrepreneurship this whole time. It's only 113 pages. I wish it is something that I knew as a young adult, because I thought that business was something where you follow the rules, just like with math or just like with economics or whatever it is. So if I was a good student, then I would be a good entrepreneur. And he talks about how you're a rule breaker in a certain way, but then how do you go about delegating? I thought the idea, Bryan, of being a millionaire when I was a young adult was something just way out of, like, to make $1 million. That was something you had to win the lottery. You had to have this magical thing happen. And then I see that, you and I know so many businesses, they just did one thing and they made it to $5 million, $10 million a year. And I think that a lot of people, not just young adults, but maybe people in this post-COVID environment, they want to start a business. The internet has made it so that you can be a millionaire. And $1 million today is not even like it was 20 years ago.
That's for sure. That's the whole point that I try to make in the book as well. There are guys who are doing full-time jobs as teachers in the book, but then have their own little agency on the side and paying for the car payment, for whatever it is. The economy is hurting right now. So why wouldn't we want to find opportunities to make more money? We all recognize problems, issues that we have. We all have skills that we can develop, or more. We can keep advancing our skills. For example, my friend Deanie that I talk about in the book. And again, every single name is not necessarily the exact person to the story, but every story in there is based on a real person. Go ahead, upskill your skills, and all of a sudden you're selling those skills and you're making a few extra $1,000s a month. And that could be incredibly meaningful, even if you're not shooting for $1 million.
But for those who want to be a millionaire, what do they need to know? What's the secret?
He who sells to the masses lives with the kings. He who sells to the kings lives with the masses. If you find an opportunity to sell to a ocean of people, large volume of people at a small margin, you're more likely to actually become a millionaire. If you sell something that's super expensive, but only a handful of people can purchase, you're likely living with poor people.
Then how does that jive with the idea that you have to niche down?
The niching down is more about creating authority and trust, but not necessarily who you're serving. You can serve larger than your niche, but in order to get attention today, which is the biggest commodity, you've got to find a good niche. And I think that's where a lot of confusion actually happens.
Now, you are the top in a very crowded space with internet marketing. You've got 8 best-selling books, keynote speaker, in the industry. What did you do to stand out among the millions of other people that would like to be like you? It's like asking Michael Jordan, how did you become the GOAT?
You ready for the deep, dark secret? When Jeffrey and I first started in our business, we had just declared bankruptcy. Dad was paying for groceries. I still lived at home. Things are pretty bleak, but we knew one thing: how to communicate. So we started writing in the early forums, the warrior forums, the iSales list, the early Audette things. And we started creating content. And that's the first thing. And we just got consistent with it. It was every single day we were producing things. I built my first email. I still remember when we first had our outside of our own circle of people who subscribed, these people from Land's End, had a whole bunch of them. And we slowly started building that up. Eventually, that got picked up by somebody else. We started producing on a larger platform that had a wider reach than our own newsletter. So we started doing content now on both. That got us invited to speak by Danny Sullivan at one of the early SESs. Those were sometimes free very early on. We took the cost. We built our reputation up. It's frustrating that, again, on TikTok for a while, I want to bash my head because everyone's like, oh yeah, it's just so easy. You click this and buy this thing. You're going to make 6 figures. You're going to be wealthy. The amount of work that actually goes behind, it's an incredible amount of effort, incredible amount of work and ethic that goes into creating the volume and quality of content. And I think everybody's out to make a buck by telling people that they can make a buck. The reality is, it takes a lot of consistent, just like an athlete, a lot of consistent work on the fundamentals every single day. So it started with writing, went to speaking, went to consulting went to creating software. That created the whole cycle. And then as we got more success, more people start to know us, and you build your network, people you hang around is going to create who you become. So it all becomes a vicious cycle. Everybody wants to shortcut it without realizing it's like, you're not going to become Steph Curry by getting on the NBA basketball court and shooting a few foul shots. It's just not going to work.
The stuff that you and Jeffrey did 20 some years ago to get started, would that work today in the social media space? What would you do differently today?
So there are a few different things. Number one, back when we first started producing content, there wasn't much content on the internet. Like, the only way you were finding content was you were going to Yahoo and all these other directories, and you were clicking through links to try to find something interesting next, right? It really wasn't even Google at the time. And so any content you produced, whether it was super great quality or whatever, it was just, people just were craving it. Today, there's an overabundance of content. There's so much content out there. You just have to figure out how to get through the noise. And that's the biggest problem today. So I think number one, I would still start raw, simple, like still do the best camera you can, good lighting. There's still stuff you can do for really inexpensive to make your quality better, good editing. And today there's great software that'll do great editing. Today there's no excuse for a lot of these things. So you couldn't put together some of the stuff we did back then now, but at the same time, the fundamentals of what to do are all like.
So this book is written for young adults to get that framework of entrepreneurship. A lot of young adults believe that the path to being wealthy or successful is to be an influencer, as if that was a job title, as if they could be a Mr. Beast or Jake Paul. What is your view on someone who's trying to become a figurehead versus running a business?
I think it's great. There's a study that just came out that talks about how the biggest job that people are dreaming for today is not fireman or astronaut, it's influencer. And it's great because it's wonderful to have an audience. But I don't think a lot of people understand what it takes to build up a tribe. And again, the commitment to the tribe and how you service the tribe and the value you bring to the tribe and how you owe your life a lot to the tribe as well. Like, you're living a lot of things for them. And it's great having a great community. I mean, look, we had a time where we had thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people on mailing list, and they respond to every email we sent. And not everything went into junk like it used to. Today, that's a lot harder to do, but you still have to understand and bring value to your community. You can't just turn on the camera and go. And I think that that's the piece that too many people get stuck on because they think it's all glamour and it's all easy, but really is a lot of work.
Most people don't have a thing that they're really good at, or they can't choose what niche to go into. How do they think about that?
I think the number one thing, and even when we had our agency, the way we used to hire people is we used to focus on finding people who are curious. You don't need to be an expert in something to build an audience, but if you're curious about it, can you share everything that you're learning based on your curiosity? Can you bring people along on that journey of being curious? Let's say you're curious about becoming a millionaire. Go read the book, share about what you're learning through the book, start documenting how you're doing it. Start documenting how you're putting pieces together. People will get engaged with that. They'll root for you. And yeah, you'll have some people who will hate on you too, ignore them. But the people who root for you will be so engaged because they're afraid to take the action, and watching you slowly take those steps, being authentic about it. That is amazing. And I know you've seen people do it every single day.
It's incredible. I've seen a lot of young adults, Bryan, where they start a business and they're optimistic because they've heard from someone like you. They've seen other successes, but then the friends that they're around, family members, they start pulling them down and they say, you should get a regular job. You're never going to make it. You're going to fail at that. You should go work at McDonald's. How do young adults overcome that?
It's definitely an issue with that and talk about that crab mentality in the book a little. This is about who you surround yourself with. And I'm saying you shouldn't listen to your friends and your family. Absolutely not. But if you are not listening to people who have what you have in life, what you want to have in life, and you don't have them as mentors, and I know you talked about your mentor from American Airlines at times over the years, and it's because of everything he accomplished, but also how much he gave to you. If you don't have someone around in your life like that, go find somebody. Somebody will be there to answer those questions, to guide you along. Follow them. Let them help you build the confidence and let them see in you the greatness that you have. If you don't have it, most of those people will tell you honestly, hey, I like what you're doing, but this is not it. And they'll do that if they really care. If not, they'll let you just go on your path. You've got to surround yourself with the right people. That's fundamentally the number one thing you've got to focus on.
But what if you don't have that network? What if you'd love to get mentored by Elon Musk, but Elon Musk won't reply to you on Twitter?
So then start looking at who Elon Musk follows and start seeing who will reach you and who will answer you and start building that network. It's a network. People are connected. You don't necessarily need to aim for the top right away. I didn't have Sammy working with the top MLB coach from day one. I had him working other coaches that have worked with some of those people. Now he's got access to about everybody in the world because of the connections we've made over the last few years. And I knew nobody in baseball a few years ago, but the curiosity drove me to crazy enough to actually even write a book about it and document that he is not a natural athlete to play baseball in college. Like only 7% of kids ever go out to play collegiate sports, but yet he's able to do it. And I've documented so much of that journey. And there are countless number of people who have seen me do that. And that's not what I'm an expert at, but they value the curiosity.
Let's drill in that a little more because I've seen you over the years line up opportunities for Sammy and meeting the very best people in hitting coaches and mindset and strength training. And you've been posting about his wins and how he's hitting the ball faster or throwing it harder. And I remember I dunked on him like 6 or 7 years ago in your little mini hoop, but now he's this 6'5", 260-pound monster. Tell everyone, because all of us, maybe we have a child or maybe we have a friend that we'd really like to see succeed. And I think it'd be really helpful if they could understand your mindset of how you set things up for Sammy, even if people listening and watching aren't doing it to be a professional athlete, but in whatever other area they can apply the same techniques.
So number one, and I'll tell you how we got started. When we first started our business, we were really unsure where we were going. Walked into a Barnes and Noble and I found a copy of Roy H. Williams' book, The Wizard of Oz. Okay, this is 1998. We already started for a couple of years. We still weren't 100% clear where we're going. Roy seemed to have it put together. This was a number one best-selling. We had a trilogy of them after that. We emailed and called their offices and said, hey, we'd love to meet with Roy. And they told us, hey, he's actually doing a free session in his office. Come down. And so we didn't have the money, but we scraped it up and Jeffrey flew out to Austin. Now Roy's been our mentor. We've written books together. We've done all kinds of other things. There's some amazing stuff that we've been able to do all of that. And I'll tell you very plain and simple. I've almost never met an author who would not respond to a direct message or a tweet or an email. It's not hard. If you're really curious and respectful and patient, most of these people will get back to you. Most of these people also are speaking places. Go find them. Go meet them in person. Connect with them. It's not hard. And again, you don't necessarily always have to shoot for the top, but if you can start shooting above where you're at, you just keep climbing. I mean, that's the number one goal. One step ahead every single day, 1% better every single day. And I still wear this as a bracelet. I had it first year of coaching with Sammy. Said, be better today than you were yesterday. That's all you're trying to do. It's every day. Get a little smarter. Did I find them the perfect strength coaches from day one? Maybe not, but we've learned a whole bunch of things. We've learned things and shared them with the strength coach. He's improved what he's done. And it's a community. It's a tribe. The problem is, I think too many people today are so focused in behind the screen and living in isolation that they forgot that we connect with people. I'll never forget that time we were in Vegas at some kind of show. And we're in the middle of a hallway and we're helping this guy with some business. That just happened. He got a whole bunch of consulting just because you and I just ran into each other.
Like I was in St. Louis a couple weeks ago with Shep Hyken. I was staying at his house and we're taking pictures of the arch, and Bryan commented, and we started another conversation. I didn't even realize that he was good friends with Shep. And then we realized we're all friends with each other, and that's what builds this network.
Exactly.
What else do you think that young adults need to hear about entrepreneurship that's not in the book?
Expect that you're going to fail at least once, if not more times. And it's okay. Because the point is, it's not like Mike Tyson said, it's not how many times you get punched, it's how many times you get back up. And it's the same thing. You and I have had numerous iterations of businesses, and we've been around numerous iterations of businesses. Sometimes you get lucky, you succeed the first time. Most often not. But if you take the lessons and you look at every failure as an opportunity to learn, you'll get great. Just a question of when.
I think it's really all mindset, because mindset drives your connections. It helps you get back up one more time than falling down. It brings you to other people that can reveal your blind spots, because your network then introduces you to other people, to other things that you need to know. And now it's not just dependent upon you. You have a whole team of people. If I could look inside your head, Bryan, and see what your network looks like, how would that be organized? If we were to cut your skull open and peer inside.
It would be frightening for one. I've always been known to be very intuitive just by nature. And I try to be present for when I'm talking to my friends. And even yesterday, you and I were talking, and it occurred to me, hey, there's a couple of people in my network that I feel needs you, that I need to connect them to you for their reasons. But there's another one, I think that there's something magical about just connecting the two of you. And I don't know what, and I don't know why, but just intuitively know that by introducing the two of you, you're both going to find value out of that relationship. And I know I actually messaged Tim McClure today and I said, we need to connect you guys. So we're going to do that. But that's exactly like, there's no reason why. Sometimes there's a reason. I have a friend, Jennifer, who works with the UN with international entrepreneurism, especially for females. And my friend Jillian and Kennedy have a fund that invests in women-led tech companies. And it just occurred to me, why have I never connected these people together? And so I went ahead that day and I was like, boom, we're going to connect them. And the way it happened is because it was some comment that Jillian posted on LinkedIn. She and I got into a conversation. I ended up sending her the book. She gave me an amazing endorsement on it from her perspective, which I really valued. And then I knew, again, how do we keep connected? And I think the biggest problem is if you're just a consumer of other people's content and you're not out there trying to actively engage with people, you're just losing out on all the value that there is in this world.
What Bryan said, guys, is something that you'll see as a trait of top entrepreneurs, is they're constantly connecting other people in their network as a catalyst, not because they're trying to make referrals for other people to hire each other, but just good people that need to meet. I interviewed Justin Breen on my podcast a couple weeks ago, and we just hit it off. I forgot it was a podcast. We were having such a good time. And he said, you really need to meet my buddy, Jeff. You need to meet this. And I said, yeah, based on what you said, you need to meet this other person. So during the call, he was texting and then I was texting, not to be rude, but because we wanted to make those kinds of connections, because I think you two would really hit it off. I don't know what it would be. You have the same interest or you have the same kind of goal. And I see people do that, like what you're doing, Bryan. That's like a mark of world-class expertise.
Well, it's not only that. The network, if you think about it almost like strings, the more connections between it, like a single thread is not very strong, but when you take that thread and you intertwine it, now you're creating a rope, and that rope can't be ripped apart very easily. It can't be pulled apart. And I think when you start making these connections with other people, you're building ropes to your network. And so it doesn't become flimsy at all. They just add value to each other. And I think that's where the gold is for everybody, and just not financially, just from a human perspective.
Yeah. The power of the weak connection. Someone wrote a book on that. I saw the stats that the average person has 400 connections, whether you call those friends or LinkedIn connections or people they know or whatnot. But if you look at the friends of friends, 16,000, in that network of 16,000, could one of those people help you with something that you need? One of my friends, Daryl Isaacs, is trying to hire a manager for his content factory. He's probably the most famous person in the state of Kentucky. He's a personal injury attorney, good friend, also a client, which is great. And in my direct network, I don't know enough people that could be the person that he needs to hire, but I put posts out there And I said, if you refer other people to me, or if you know of someone who's interested, now all these applications are coming in from people I've never known, but those people would never have known that opportunity existed unless I had said something and then their friends shared that, which created this multiplying effect.
Crazy you mentioned Kentucky, because this morning I'm chatting with a friend, just bought the book last night, shared it on Instagram this morning, and he's a baseball coach. And he's hoping I can get to see his Y'alls. That's the name of the team. They'll be playing the Savannah Bananas this summer. And he's hopefully you'll either see me in Kentucky or in Ohio. I'm like, that's awesome. So you know what? If you did find somebody, I could ask him because he probably has connections in Kentucky. But just because you just mentioned, otherwise, if we don't have these conversations, we don't engage with people in these kinds of informal or even formal conversations, we lose opportunities. If you just surround yourself with people who want to help you and others, you're going to find valuable connection.
Bryan, it's been absolutely fantastic spending time with you. Is there anything else that you wish that you could say or a question you'd like to answer?
As Nike said, just do it. Take that first step. It's okay. Whether you fail, whether you're not, just try something. Get out of your comfort zone. And the more it feels uncomfortable, the more you're probably going in the right direction, because everything you do now that has you where you are and makes you comfortable is what's creating what you have in life. And if you want something different, a little bit of discomfort a day, and you'll grow tremendously.
Everything happens for a reason. The reason you're listening here, there's a reason for this. If you've been thinking about starting that business, if there's that person who came to mind, a friend of yours, maybe it's your son, then this is what you needed to hear. And the Rice and Beans Millionaire is 113 pages. It'll take you maybe 90 minutes to read, and it will lay the framework that no other book has found. The reason why Bryan and Jeffrey wrote this book is they couldn't find anything that covered these fundamentals. And I looked at this too, and I said, you know what? You're right. I see a lot of self-help coaches. I see a lot of frameworks for business and finance and marketing and whatnot, but not something that really covers the mindset for the beginning entrepreneur. Not the entrepreneur that's trying to like scale and hire more employees, but just to get to that first million.
The book even has more than that, because I think coming back to the fundamentals, if you forgot that, maybe you've been in business for 20 years. As you read this book, you'll be like, man, when we first started, we were having a lot of growth. We were doing this. Now I don't have a handle on it anymore. And hopefully it'll trigger some new things. And like, we purposely spent some time putting stuff in there that would appeal to the person who's been doing this 30 years or the person who's been thinking about it for 30 minutes.
Amen. So if anything that Bryan has said resonates with you, make a 15-second video, post it on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, your blog, wherever it is, and send that to me. Tag me in it, and I will send you a copy of the book. I will spend my own money, go to Amazon and type it in and send you that copy of the book, if you're in the first 10 people to do this. Hey, Bryan, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Rice and Beans Millionaire, number one in entrepreneurship. Hopefully we can have it be number one in entrepreneurship with you guys. Thank you so much.